Hello everyone and welcome to this next lecture. In the previous lecture I installed Anaconda software. In this lecture I'm going to tell you how you can set it up. Now when I say set it up, all I mean is how do you create an environment, how do you install software in the environment and things like that. So to start off with, let's show you the documentation related to the Anaconda environment management. So for that, as always, open a web browser. I'm using Google Chrome. You can use anything else and just Google managing Anaconda environments. Okay, I visit this page often, that's why it's saved here. I'll just click on this. So this link, this is the docs of Anaconda, okay, documentation, and this gives you more or less everything you need to know about how you manage a Anaconda environment, right? Like how do you create an environment, how do you update an environment, how do you install software in the environment, everything, right? So let's get started with this, and let me just jump over to a terminal. So this is one of my terminals. I just opened a terminal. Now you'll see something very strange here, and this may not appear on your terminal because it depends on how your bash is configured, but my bash is configured to indicate the environment of the Anaconda which I'm using. Alright, because Anaconda is installed, it will indicate which environment is active, right? So this shows that the base environment of Anaconda is active. This in parentheses here. That's what it means. So to find out which environments are active, we can go over to this. We can just look. There is this one command here, viewing a list of your environments, right? And you see this is the command. To see a list of all your environments in your terminal window or Anaconda prompt, run conda info --envs. Either one of these will do. So let's just run this. I'm just going to copy this command and paste it here. And you see, this is what it says you. Because this is just a warning. This is just to tell you that certain modules may be deprecated and removed, and in that case some of the commands may change, so don't worry about this warning. What is important is this shows you the Conda environments. This is the list, and you see there is the base. So basically the base is the one environment that is installed automatically when you install Anaconda software, right? So when you install Anaconda, it automatically sets up a base environment for you, because that is the environment which you automatically use even if you don't create a special one on your own. So now the next question is, how do you create an environment? So let's go back to our documentation. So let's go all the way to the top and let's look at this first command, creating an environment with commands. So let's click on that. So you see, this is it. Now to create an environment, all we have to do is say conda create -- name my environment. So what I'm saying is conda create is the command. -- name is the argument. So I'm saying that the argument is -- name and the value of that argument is my environment. So let's go and copy. Let's just copy this. And let's go back to our terminal and let's paste it. Let's just paste it as it is. So you see here it's saying that it's solving an environment, done. So it's taking its time because it'll probably have to create some stuff. It's just giving you a warning saying there's a newer version of Anaconda, don't bother with it. And it has given you, it has now created a new environment. So or rather it's saying this is where the environment is created. So this is the home directory, home/Shivkumar. As I said, everything of Anaconda will be installed in this directory, Anaconda 3 within the home directory. And it has created a new environment directory called envs within the Anaconda directory and another directory for this particular environment with the same name as the environment. So every package that you install will go inside this directory, right? So this is how it manages it. So proceed yes, no, yes we can, and it is done. So it says that it has created everything. To activate this environment, use conda activate. I'll come back to this soon. And to deactivate this environment, use conda deactivate. So first thing is, let's list our commands again. Okay, you see I am now listing my environments again, and now it shows you two. It shows you the base which is there before, and it shows you the my environment which is now new, right? This wasn't there before, but you see there is a star. This star indicates that this environment base is what is active, and that can be seen from this parenthesis, right? Whatever is the name within the parenthesis here is the Anaconda environment which is active. So my environment is not active yet, we've created it, right? So now let's go back and check out what we do. So you see here, we can use conda activate my environment to activate this environment. So let's look at it again now. Let me just clear this so that we have more space, and let me paste that command, conda activate my environment. So you see the name has changed, right? It was before base and it is now my environment within parentheses. What this means is that the environment, my environment, is now active. Let's list the environments again. You see, again we get the same environments because nothing has changed. We haven't created a new one. So, but here the star is now at my environment. This is the active environment. So we have changed the active environment. So now what does that actually mean? Let's go back and let's do a little bit of a test. One thing we can do is we can test our version of Python. And this is how you test your version of Python. You say Python minus capital V. You see, the Python version is 2.7.13, and the reason for that is because the Python version on my home computer is 2.7.13, and this has picked up that home version of Python, right? Let's now go back and check out what is there in base. Now, the same way we did conda activate my environment, we can do conda activate base. So what we are saying is we are now in the my environment, my env environment. We are now saying switch back to base. That's what this command says. Conda activate base and activate the base environment. So let's click on that. You see here the name has changed within parentheses. What this means is the base environment is now active. So let's run that command again, Python minus v, and you see here Python version is 3.7.3. Why? Because when we installed conda, we installed Anaconda with Python version 3.7, right? So that came with the Python 3.7.3 version, right? So when Anaconda created the base environment for you, it has provided the version of Python as Python 3.7.3. When we created a new version, we didn't specify anything. So it took up the Python which was there in my home computer, not the one, or rather the base operating system, not the new version of Anaconda. So therefore it gave us 2.7.13. So now the question is, how do we now create an environment with a version of Python? So let's talk about it. Let's go back to the documentation. So in the documentation, we were now looking at how to create an environment. Let's go back to the top, and you see here in this documentation we have the tab called managing environments. That's what we were looking at. If you look at all the other ones, you see here there is one called managing packages and also managing Python, but managing packages. So you see here, this is how you manage the packages within the Anaconda distribution, right? So this is what it is. Look at, for example, you can search for a package, you can install packages, all of these. What we are now interested in is installing a package, right? So you see here, it's now saying how this is how you install a package. First thing is you can say conda install -- name my environment scipy. What this means is conda install is again the command. -- name is the argument. -- name means this is the name of the environment, and lastly the command. So what it means, or rather the package. So what it's saying is install this package scipy inside the environment with the name my environment given by this argument -- name. That's what it means. Another option is if your environment is already active, right? So if you're already inside my environment, my env, you do not need to specify this. If you just say conda install scipy, it will install scipy in the active environment. So if my env is active, you can just specify conda install scipy. So what we want to install is Python. So let's do that. Let's go back to the terminal and let's go back to my env. So I'm going to click my env as before, verify always that the name of the environment appears in parentheses, because that means my env is now active. And now let's click on conda install Python. And now you see, this is what it's doing. Like I said before, the biggest advantage of a package manager is when you specify a certain package, not only will it install the package, but also all the dependencies that the package needs. So you see, this is what it's saying. As usual, the warning, don't think about this. You don't need, if you really want to get rid of the warning, you don't like warnings, you can run this command and get rid of it. But here, this is what it's saying. This is your environment location. As I said before, this is my env, nothing new. Added updated specs, Python. This is what we have specified, right? We have specified install Python. And it says these are the packages it will download, right? So these are not what we specified. We didn't say this. We didn't tell it to install this. These are dependencies that Python needs, right? And it says that these packages will be installed, which includes Python and everything else. So now look, this is the version of Python. Here, this is our package. And you see, it is Python version 3.7.3. This is the same version which is there in base. This is the latest version of Python available with Anaconda, and that is what it's installing. When you do not specify anything, when I just say conda install Python, it is going to install the latest version of Python available. That's what it will do. That is the default. And I'll tell you how to overcome that next. So what do you say, yes or no? I don't think there's any problem here. So let's just say yes. And it's going to download and install the packages, right? So this, depending on your internet connection, it could take any amount of time. I would just say, I would pause the video and come back when it's done. Otherwise, you could just wait. So you see, the installation is finally completed. This is what it says. It is downloaded and extracting all the packages. And this, make sure that these three appear. This means everything is done, right? So let's clear once to get some more space in the screen. And let's run the command again. Python -b. And you see, the version of Python has changed. This is the same as what was there in the base environment. So we have now installed the latest version of Python, right? Now, remember something. We were specifying the version of, let's go back to managing environments. And let's go back to creating an environment with commands, right? You see here, there is another shortcut to creating an environment. Like for example, when I say conda create mine, right, with a name argument, it will take the version of Python on my host computer, right, which is 2.7.13. Now, you could always do that and then install Python, no problem. Or there's a shortcut. When you know that you want to start with a particular version of Python or any package for that matter, right? Even if, let's say, for example, let's say you are working on scientific applications, okay? Like for example, the main package that you need is SciPy. In that case, you can say create your environment with this version, with this package SciPy. What it's saying is, what you're saying to it is create the environment and at the same time just install this package because I need this package. This is just a shortcut. You could create the environment and then install packages, or you can just specify your starting packages here just to accelerate the process. Totally up to you. So let's try this out. Let's create this environment. Now here this is a shortcut. Before it said -- name, here it says -n. This is typically a shortcut where you use double dash, you specify the entire name of the argument. If you use one dash, you can specify a shortcut, which is -n. But I would just say let's just use this instead. And go back to our command prompt. Let me paste the command and let me now say Python myenv1 because myenv already exists. And I'm going to specify Python 3.5. Sorry, mistake. Python 3.5. Right? So you see what I'm doing. I'm repeating the same command. I'm saying conda create. The environment name is myenv1. As opposed to myenv. If I say myenv, it will give me an error because it already exists. I am saying start this environment with Python version 3.5, right? Get started with that version because that's what I want. So let's try that out. Alright, as before, it asks the same thing. It just gives you all this, the warnings, don't think about all that. Here it says, look, added updated specs. So what it says is, this is what you have specified, right? Specs means this is what you want, Python 3.5, right? And it says, I'm going to add all these other packages. I'm going to download these packages. Out of these packages, Python 3.5.6 is one of them, right? This is a new version of Python that's been downloaded, right? And these are the new packages which will be installed. And among that, there is Python, and the version is 3.5.6, right? So this is how the package installer works. Let's just say yes and continue. As before, it may take any amount of time depending on what your internet works. So I will pause the video and come back. So the environment is finally being created. These 3 lines indicate that everything is done. And as before, it tells you how to activate the environment and how to deactivate the environment. So let's run this. I'm going to copy this command, copy the entire command, paste it here, and you see the environment is now active here. So the name has changed. It was first myenv, now it's myenv1. So it's myenv1 which is now active. So let me clear this to get some more space on the screen, and once let me list out my environments, conda inf minus info dash dash envs. So you see now we have 3 environments. You have the base, which is always there. Once you install Anaconda, it will always be there. We installed myenv before, and now we've installed myenv1, and you see the star here next to it indicates that this is the active environment, right? Also the name within the parentheses. So let's now check out, as before, what is the version of Python? Python minus v. So you see here Python 3.5.6, right? In myenv it was Python 3.7.3, in base it is Python 3.7. Base comes with Anaconda. So the Anaconda version was 3.7, and within that 3.7.3. myenv, we installed Python, but we installed the latest version. So we got Python 3.7.3. Here in myenv, we actually specified a particular version of Python. We said, give me this version of Python. All right. And I can just tell you, how about I do this, repeat the process again. That is, I install Python again, but this time I'm going to install Python version 3.6. I'm sorry, spelling mistake. Okay, so I am installing conda install Python is equal to 3.6. So I have Python 3.5.6. I am saying install Python 3.6. All right. What I'm trying to do, I'm trying to install another version of Python even though I have Python. So let me see what happens now. All it's going to do is it's going to install the newer version of Python. So you see here, this is what it's doing. What it's saying is, this is your new spec Python 3.6. It is going to download these packages, and among that there is Python 3.6.9. And these are the packages which will be updated. So here it says, this is an update. Remember, we have done an install. We are asking for an install, but it's not doing an install. It's updating. You see, this is what is happening. 3.5.6 is being updated to 3.6.9. And same with all these packages. All these packages are being updated. Why? Because we are asking for a newer version of Python. And when you ask for a newer version of Python, it's going to update all the packages which also depend, on which Python depends. Right? So let's just say yes and continue. As before, it will take time. So I'm going to pause the video and come back when it's done. So the installation is finally complete, and you can see these 3 lines indicate that everything has been done successfully, and here it shows you that it has installed the package. So as before, let's just clear this to get some more space on the screen, and let's run the same command all over again, Python minus v, and you see the Python version has changed. I had Python 3.5.6, it has now become Python 3.6.9. So this is how you install packages in your Python version. And as before, you could also install a number of different packages. You can just install, for example, I could say Python install scipy, right? And it will install Python version scipy, because all you have to do, for example, I'm not going to do this because it'll just take a lot of time, but you could run, and I will show you how you need to install software when we are setting up Python Power Electronics. But that comes later. I would like to wind up this lecture now. So I'm just going to say no and exit this. So if you say no, it just exits the installation. But in this way, you can actually install any number of packages in your environment. Before I exit, I'm going to talk about one last thing, and that is how we remove an environment. So you see, sometimes you end up creating too many environments. Like for example, you want to test an environment and things like that, and if the number of environments increases, the one problem is you end up taking too much space in your computer. So if you know that an environment is useless, it might be advisable to remove it, and this is the command. Now there are two commands, right? And I'm going to tell you that in some cases this one doesn't work, it's this one that works. We'll just have to try it out. So let's try to remove these commands. Let's try to remove both of them. So I am in Conda environment in my env. Let me activate base again. So I'm trying to remove the other two environments. I'm going back to my base environment. So this is base. You see, the name has changed within the parentheses. So it's the base environment that's active. Let me paste this and let me remove it. Right? I'm not sure if it will work. I don't think so. Let me just say yes. You see, it just says that, are you sure? Warning, removing all packages. You just say yes. Okay, it seems to have done something. The only way to actually know is, let me clear to get some more space. And let me click on the command minus, let me list my environments. And it has indeed removed it. So in some cases, I believe maybe in Windows it might be the case that command may not work. If the command does not work, just remove this command, use this command, right? It just depends on sometimes the version of Anaconda and the compatibility of the operating system, things like that. So if this doesn't work, you use this instead. So in the same way, let's remove our other environment also. So it's minus my env, because both of them were really test environments. We don't need them. And it says, are you sure? Yes. So as before, it appears to have done something. So let me just go back and let me look at my environments. And yes, it has removed it. So you see, we created two environments, myenv and myen1. We installed packages within them. We tried, I showed you how you can actually install specific packages, update the packages, and also create environments with a particular package to start off with. And in the end, we can remove the packages. So this is about setting up environments and managing them in Anaconda, right? So if anything didn't work in this while you are continuing with me, please post in the Q&A and I'll be happy to help you out. In the meantime, I will end this lecture, and in the next lecture, I'll talk about how we will be setting up Anaconda manually for Python Power Electronics. And I'll tell you that that is also not needed. There is a more automatic way to do it. And when we set up Python Power Electronics, I'll show you what that automatic way is. So anyway, as before, any doubts, please do post in the Q&A. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next lecture. Goodbye for now.